like I was saying in today's lesson, I was hoping to focus on a past paper because some of you will be coming up to writing exams now. Lots of you won't as well. Don't panic. This will just help you to learn about the kinds of things you could face at some point when you have to do the exams. And you'll notice that a lot of the concepts that we cover are the kind of concepts that you find in your course books, your workbooks, your student books, okay? This is the kind of concept that you need to know, and they're preparing you for the exams. So when you get the exam, there are 2 papers. We're going to look at paper 1 today. This is from October 2015. This is not in the course. This is just a random past paper that I'm going to have a look at. And it's generally out of 50. Okay. Now let's have a look at how it's divided. It's divided into 2 sections. There's section A, which is reading, and then there's a section B, which is writing. So you are tested on both your reading and your writing skills. And generally the reading section always takes the form of an extract of some kind that you have to read very closely in order to answer the questions that are given on it. And that's how they test your reading skills. So my advice is whenever you get an extract, read it twice at least. Remember, you are limited for time, but in order for you to really get the maximum gain out of reading the extract, first time round is for meaning, second time round is for details. Okay, so let's do that. It says, read this extract from an article about dolphins. Yay, nice topic. Okay. So, dolphins. Kelly is a pretty amazing dolphin. She lives at a research center in the USA where the dolphins have been trained to help keep the tanks clean. These dolphins have learned that if they pass a piece of litter to a trainer, they will be rewarded with a fish. Kelly is also a cunning dolphin, and she has worked out that she can cheat the system. Good on her. Every time Kelly finds a scrap of paper, she hides it under a rock at the bottom of her tank. Then, when she spots a trainer approaching, Kelly dives down and tears off a small piece to give to the trainer. When the next trainer turns up, Kelly tears off another bit. She seems to be thinking, why get one fish for her piece of paper when she can get lots? How very human of her. Kelly's practical thinking doesn't stop there. One day, a gull flew into her tank. She dutifully gave the bird to a trainer and was rewarded with several fish. This seemed to give her another great idea. When feeding time came around again, she took the last fish down to her secret hiding place under the rock. When the trainers weren't around, it seemed she used the fish as bait to attract more gulls so that she could present them to the trainers for a reward. Okay, so she's using the papers to get more rewards, and she's using the gulls to get more rewards. Okay. Let's have a look at the next 2 paragraphs. In fact, this technique worked so well that she taught her calf how to do it. Others also learned this trick, and now the group are a regular bunch of gull baiters. They have learned to lure them with the fish they have hidden and to swap their feathery bounty for yet more fishy treats. I do hope they're not hurting those gulls, but anyway. This tale is a brilliant example of how clever dolphins can be. And when they happen upon a great idea or just a new game, they can pass on this knowledge to their friends. Kelly's story perfectly supports the argument that dolphins do not deserve to be held in concrete tanks to amuse humans, okay, because they are intelligent creatures. If they can do these kind of things, if they can work out these concepts for themselves, they are too intelligent to be kept in little tanks. That's what this article is suggesting. Okay. So how are they going to test that you have read this article closely? Well, they're going to give you some questions initially. Now answer these questions in the spaces provided. What task do the dolphins do to help at the research center? And if you remember when I read that opening line, it said Kelly is a pretty amazing dolphin. She lives at a research center in the USA where the dolphins have been trained to help keep the tanks clean. Okay, so that would be your answer for the first one. So I have actually written out some answers on another copy of this paper. So I typed some of them so that at least you could read my squally handwriting. What tasks the dolphins do to help at the research center? they help keep the tanks clean. That's the main idea. And you would get a mark for that, okay? So here in the side, you get 1, right? You get a tick. Okay, number 2. Why does Kelly hide scraps of paper at the bottom of the tank? Remember, we saw that close to the bottom here of this first paragraph. Every time Kelly finds a scrap of paper, she hides it under a rock at the bottom of her tank. Then, when she spots a trainer approaching, she dives down and tears off a small piece to give to the trainer. When the next trainer turns up, Kelly tears off another bit. She seems to be thinking, why get one fish for her piece of paper when she can get lots? Let's summarize this into a sentence. Why does Kelly hide scraps of paper at the bottom of the tank? So she can tear little bits off and give them to a trainer, or actually here I should have had trainers, I had in brackets and S to show that I also mean all trainers, to earn extra rewards. Okay, so she's not just getting one fish for one scrap paper, she's getting many for many scrap papers, okay? All right, then, number 3. What did Kelly teach her calf? Sorry. What did Kelly teach her calf? Let's have a look at that. So, we looked at this idea of how then she started applying the system to gulls coming into the tank, because they also want to eat the fish that the dolphins are eating. And so if she caught a gull and gave a gull over to the trainer, she would get a reward. And then if she just divides those fish up into little bits, she can attract more gulls. And so she's taught this to her calf. In fact, this technique worked so well that she taught her calf how to do it. Note what we call a baby dolphin. Okay. Right, so let's go on here. So, here you would have gotten a tick and a 1. And here, what did Kelly teach her calf? She taught her calf how to bait gulls for rewards. Okay. Note that I try to write in full sentences. Note the capital letter at the start. And there should be a full stop here. Bad. You won't get marked down on this, but you want to show your marker that you are a competent writer as well as a reader. And it will work in your favor if you do everything neatly and properly. So rather make sure that you start with a capital letter, that you write in a full sentence that makes sense, not just tanks clean, for example, in this first sentence. They help keep the tanks clean. Okay, makes sense to your marker. Right. So for this section of the paper, you would have gotten 3 marks. Right, good. Now let's move on to the next part. Now they're going to test your vocabulary. Okay, so this is all about vocabulary and how well read you are. Why should you bother reading widely, as most English teachers recommend, if not all English teachers recommend? Because reading widely will help you to improve your vocabulary, and remember, it will also help you with your spelling skills, okay, because you'll be writing words out and spelling them correctly, hopefully, and so it's very important to read widely. When you come across a word you don't know, you write it down a few times. Number 2, give the meaning of each of the following words as it is used in the passage. In each case, give one word or one short phrase. Okay, so you have to choose one or the other. And you can do, so here you could use one word, you can use a short phrase, as long as for each answer, you only give a word or a short phrase, not more. If you do more, you won't get the mark because it shows that you're not quite certain. It's possible, could be that, but it could also be that. And so then your marker can't give you a mark because you've got to follow instructions, okay? So the meaning of each word as it is used in the passage. So it has to be, it can't just be spots that are dots, okay? How is it used in the passage? Let's have a look. And they actually put it in bold for you. Then when she spots a trainer approaching, okay, she spots a trainer approaching. I'm going to open the chat box now, and I would like you to please offer some suggestions. Right, so when she spots a trainer approaching, what word could you substitute, or what phrase could you substitute for spots? When she spots a trainer approaching, what would you put? Notices, good, yes. When she notices a trainer approaching, that would work too, yes. So let's type here, notices. So that would be acceptable. Well done, good. Okay, the next one that is in bold, I won't bother going back down to the exercise. The next one that is in bold is lure, is it? Yes, lure. Okay. They have learned to lure them, the dolphins have learned to lure the seagulls with the fish they have hidden. Okay. They've learned to lure them with the fish they have hidden. What could we put in place of lure here? Attract, good, yes, they have learned to attract them, good. Okay, so now we have, good, yes. All right, so we could use attract there. Next one. This tale is a brilliant example of how clever dolphins can be. What can we substitute there? This story, good. Yes, excellent, this story. Okay, let's look at the last one. Kelly's story perfectly supports the argument that dolphins do not deserve to be held in concrete tanks. Kelly's story perfectly supports the argument. What do you do when you write an argumentative essay and you support your argument? So I think because we're always limited for time, I'm just going to give my suggestion. And if you still want to add, reinforce. Oh, okay. Kelly's story perfectly reinforces the argument. That would be totally acceptable. It works, it makes sense, and it is about supporting the argument in some way. Good. Wow, very nice. Reinforces. Explains. Kelly's story perfectly explains the argument that dolphins. Okay, I see what you're saying, but explains work there. I know what you want to say there because you're trying to show that this whole story, what it does is it explains how dolphins function as intelligent beings. But I don't know if that could be used in place of support. It's almost there. It's almost there. Oh, here's another suggestion. Kelly's story perfectly helps the argument. Yes, helps would work. Okay, so just try it. When you get an idea, don't worry if it's wrong. You've got to try it out. That's the whole way we learn, okay? So put the word that a story perfectly explains the argument. I think we want that idea of helping, of supporting, of giving some sort of evidence for, okay? And that's possibly why I don't think explains would work there. So I wanted to say thank you for your lovely suggestions. I really, really appreciate that. I have written some here. Now, please note that where I've written or, you must never do that in the test, okay? I'm just giving you possibilities. And we could also add the ones you've given as well. Or reinforces, sorry, reinforces, not writing very well here, helps. Both of these have some idea, some suggestion of support going on within them. I've said gives evidence for, just to show you what a short phrase could look like instead of a word. Gives evidence for. And if you were going to put that into the sentence, Kelly's story perfectly gives evidence for the argument that dolphins, it works. Okay, so that's the way to test your option that you've gone for. All right, thanks guys. All right, so now, your favorite. Add the missing punctuation to these sentences and you get 2 marks. Oh, so what I wanted to say is you would get 1 mark for each of these. It absolutely has to be correct, okay? And like I say, do not do this. And let me write this on here because if you want me to send a copy of this to you, I want to make it clear. Do not give more than 1 answer, okay? This was just for illustration purposes. Right, so let's have a look at the punctuation. Do you think dolphins are clever enough to know what we are thinking? Asked the spectator. The researcher smiled. I don't know, she said. They are certainly intelligent, friendly, and playful. Right, so let me go to the answer sheet so I can fill in the answers as we work through this together. So let's have a look at this. It starts out with, do you think dolphins are clever enough to know what we are thinking? Asked the spectator. We already know that we should have direct speech because a question is being asked, someone is seeking. So how do we show direct speech? We use our double quote marks. Oh, I'll just try and do that again a bit more neatly. Do you think dolphins are clever enough to know what we are thinking? Asked the spectator. Generally, we try to include the punctuation within the quote marks. Okay. So what is happening here? A question is being asked. Do you think? So we must have the question mark after the question. And it must still be inside the quote marks. Okay, so the quote consists of what? A question that has the question mark within it. So ask the spectator. And then here we have a capital letter. So what should happen? A full stop must come after ask the spectator, because sentences start with capital letters, they end with full stops. So now we know we're in a new sentence. The researcher smiled. I don't know, she said. Okay, so now she is replying to the question. The researcher smiled, and then she starts talking. And because she's just about to start talking, we want to show this. We're going to put a comma. The researcher smiled, comma, and here's her reply, which we open up with the speech marks. I don't know, she said. Okay, now, usually within speech marks, you will have a comma after a statement like this, all right? Why don't I have a full stop, do you think? And I am going to put a full stop after she said, because I can see that the next sentence begins with a capital, right? So why is there a comma and not a full stop? Well, because we're limited for time, sorry. Because that is a convention, that when somebody speaks and then we have said whoever, we generally put a comma and it falls inside the speech marks, okay? And then the last sentence says, they are certainly intelligent, friendly, and playful. Who is saying this? It's the researcher. She's continuing on from this idea where she admits she doesn't know. Okay, she doesn't know what they are thinking, or if she doesn't know if dolphins know what we are thinking. So because she's continuing to speak, we have to open up those speech marks. They are certainly intelligent, friendly, and playful. And here we have a list of 3 qualities, and lists are generally separated by commas. They're certainly intelligent, comma, friendly, and you can put a comma here if you want. It's known as the Oxford comma, and it comes before an and, but you don't have to. But it is acceptable. So if you didn't, it's okay, you wouldn't be wrong, but you could have one if you wanted to. They are certainly intelligent, friendly, comma, if we want to, and playful, full stop. Okay, and if you did all of these things, you would get certain marks, all right? Let's, oh yeah, no, so this is the memo that I'm giving you. So this is the only one that would possibly not have to be there, okay? But everything else would have to be there. And then, only then, if everything else was there, would you get 2 marks. Although saying that, sometimes on the marking memo, they'll allow you 1 or 2 errors for punctuation. And so you might still get the full mark. But if it goes beyond 1 or 2 errors, then you're probably only going to get 1 mark. And if it's really bad, you'll probably get no marks. But hopefully you would never get no marks for this particular kind of a question. Right, let's move on to the next part. Rewrite this sentence adding a relative clause with further information from the passage. They are testing your grammar knowledge. Do you know terminology? What is a relative clause? Does anybody know? Like if you saw this, would you be able to answer it? What's a relative clause? I suspect that most students probably wouldn't know what it is. Forgive me if I'm generalizing, okay? I take it back if I'm generalizing. If you do know, well done. Now, a relative clause is something which makes use of a relative pronoun. So it uses a relative pronoun, all right? So something is relative to something else. And these relative pronouns are words like who, which, or that. And the reason we use who, which, or that is because we want to add further information to a passage. We want to give more information about something that we're talking about, and that's how we do it. We use who, which, that. Okay, so that's what is meant by a relative clause. Now, Kelly is a clever dolphin. What can we say here about dolphins? Well, we've been talking about her as an individual. She's even got a name. So I would use Kelly is a clever dolphin, and you would write it out. Okay, I'm just trying to save time here. Who, what about her? Let's see. Who lives at a research center in the USA where the dolphins have been trained to help clean the tank or help keep the tanks clean, or who lives at a research center in the USA. That's already extra information. You could use that. You could use the rest of the sentence. Any sort of extra bit of information would help. Who taught her calf how to gull bait. Okay, there's another extra bit of information. So you have to base your answer from information taken from the passage, and that's where you would get it from. So you could use any one of these kind of relative pronouns that would relate to what Kelly does, right? Or who Kelly is. Number 5, combine these 3 sentences into one complex sentence. Do not use and do not use but, and that makes it quite tricky. So I'm going to read the 3 sentences out, and I want you to give your answers. It's tricky, okay? You don't necessarily have to keep the sentences in the order they give it to you, okay? So just keep that in mind, but it needs to make sense, and it needs to be a complex sentence. So it needs to follow on idea-wise, okay? Dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans. They are very intelligent and playful. Many dolphins are trained in captivity. I'm going to give you a minute to give me some of your suggestions. Combine those into one complex sentence. Don't use the words and or but. You can use other words. You can use punctuation. Okay, because we're running out of time, I'm going to try and give my own suggestion. And, you know, it's quite tricky. You could reword things in a certain way. If I chose to keep dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans as the opening to my sentence, and I wanted to combine these 2 things. They are very intelligent and playful. Many dolphins are trained in captivity. How would I do that? So could I say dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans, therefore they are very intelligent and playful, thus many dolphins are trained in captivity? No, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so I would eliminate that. What about however? Dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans. However, they are very intelligent and playful. What's that got to do with living in rivers and oceans? Can't use that. What about nevertheless? Okay, so I'm giving you examples of connectives or junctions, words that we can use to link sentences so that the ideas flow on from one to another. And to save time, I've decided to put something like the following. Although dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans, and to reinforce this idea of how they live naturally, I want to then bring this 3rd part up, and I'm going to say, although dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans, comma, many dolphins are trained in captivity, and I'd take away the full stop and I'd say, because they are very intelligent and playful. Okay. So you could come up with something else. So this would be your first part, this would be your second part, and this would be the 3rd part. And the 2 connectives, conjunctions that I've used are although and because. All right, so there are definitely other options, but those are the ones that I came up with. If there's any options you came up with that you want to check with me on the web chat system after this, please feel free to do that, because it is a tricky one. If you find that you're really struggling with something and you can see it's only worth 1 mark, come back to it later. Okay, come back to it later. All right, now what are we on? We're on 1028. Complete this sentence using 2 different forms of the same verb. So you need a verb and you need to know that it has 2 different forms. The trainer threw the first fish, which the dolphin, in its mouth, but it did not the second one. Okay, give me suggestions of the verbs there. The trainer threw the first fish, which the dolphin helps in its mouth, but it did not help the second one. No, I don't think that would work. I don't think helps would work there. I'm not quite sure what you mean by helps. The trainer threw the first fish, which the dolphin helps. Did you mean held? Maybe held? Okay, here's another suggestion. Caught and catch. Good, that works, yes. The trainer threw the first fish, which the dolphin caught in its mouth, but it did not catch the second one. Good. Okay, had is another option we've had. The trainer threw the first fish, which the dolphin had in its mouth. Okay, so why had wouldn't work there is because had is past tense, right? I had a test yesterday. So the trainer threw the first fish. So he's throwing the fish, which the dolphin had in its mouth. You can't throw the fish the dolphin has in its mouth. You see what I'm saying? So that wouldn't work. But I understand we want to use it. But I think, honestly, the best option here would be caught and catch. Okay, so sorry if I've misunderstood the other options you've offered me, but I would go for caught and catch. And look, just for that, you'd have to, that is 1 mark. So can you see how strictly Cambridge marks? Okay, we're running out of time already. So what I would have gone through with you is this next section. If you want a copy of this test, then please send me a message on the main web chat system, not here in Zoom, and I'll give you a copy of the test and some of the answers I've written. And essentially, this section will test your ability to notice facts. Okay, so close reading, make a list of all the dangers, etc. that's going to talk about in there. And then it's going to want you to provide a summary in your own words as far as possible to a certain limit. Okay, and remember, when you use your own words, it's a good thing, except when it comes to some terminology, generally scientific concepts and things like that, you can't always use your own words, and that's acceptable if you use a scientific concept. But in general, if you can reword things, then it is much better to do so, right? And it has to be based on what's in here. Don't bring in new ideas that have nothing to do with what is explored in the